Hi, everybody. Welcome to 2021. This is Kevin McCabe,
This is Mark Condell.
and this is the Drone Economy, where we talk all things drones and try to provide insight into what we see as our autonomous future. And so there's been some big developments recently in the drone economy world, and we're just going to touch on one of them. We know that there's new regulations rolling out, new products that rolled out over the season, but we're just going to hone in on really the remote ID regulation that has been published by the FAA here in the U.S. And we're just going to kind of give an overview of that, talk through some of the implications, and hope to inform anybody that's watching and listening.
Sounds good.
Yep. So yeah, in the past week, it was the 28th of December, the FAA published a couple of new rules in regards to drone use. One is about where drones can be flown or which drones can be flown where, in regards to over people, over vehicles, and at night. Whole separate set of rules and regulations there. The other one that they published was about remote ID identification of drones. And basically what this is a signal that will be broadcast by drones. This is going to apply to all drones, and I'll explain the caveats there, explain the exceptions, right? But it'll apply to all drones in the next 2.5 years. In the next 2.5 years, this will activate, and all drones will have to adhere to this in the U.S. The drone will broadcast a remote ID signal that will include its serial number, its latitude and longitude at any given point in time, its altitude, its velocity, its emergency status, and then the time. And it will also broadcast the location of the control system or where that drone is being flown from. Additional detail in regards to the drone, because there'll be an associated serial number, will be able to be accessed by certain authorizations. So FAA, certain law enforcement, other enforcement agencies will be able to access that. But my understanding of this is that this broadcast signal will be able to be picked up by the general public, probably through an application. But the idea is that you could use your smartphone or a tablet or a laptop and open the application and see the drones above you and really where they're being flown from, I guess, is the vital information that you would want to know. This is really more so for the FAA to be able to monitor where drones are and ensure that they're being used properly and that they're not going into any airspace that they're not allowed to be in.
Oh, that's really a breakthrough that's happening. It's like, pushing the chip down the roads. That way we can get to where we want to be with the future autonomous world where everyone knows. And as you said earlier, when we talked pre-show, this is like the traffic signals that are allowing the drone world to start working just like cars had to get traffic signals when they started. This is the drone level for that will be able to monitor each other and know not to interfere. I guess it's like the traffic tower for airplanes for drones.
That's right. I mean, you think 100 years ago with air flight kind of just beginning to become real mainstream. I don't know, I think that's about the right time frame there. Mm-hmm. But there wasn't even an FAA, and all of these rules had to be established in terms of airspace usage to ensure safety and security. And so the FAA is publicly stating that they see where drone usage is going, and they see that they'll be an integral part of airspace in the very near future. And they had to set these rules now. They had to start setting some boundaries in terms of usage and identification to ensure accountability of pilots, and also to start establishing the infrastructure for traffic management in the air.
And then this, I think you mentioned that this is going to be in place, actually physically in place on most drones within the next 2 months. That soon?
No. So the rule is activated 60 days after the 28th. So 2 months from now, that rule will be activated. At that point, drone manufacturers have 18 months to adhere to this new rule. So drones at that point will have to have this remote ID broadcast capability manufactured into the drone. So I'd say, like, at that point, we shouldn't see any new drones hit the market that won't have that capability built into it. It's going to be essential to flying a drone at that point on.
And then I guess we'll have to find out what about the older ones that are on the market. Can they still fly those, or are those off the market? Put an attachment.
For those drones that were bought prior to that capability being built into the drones, the user will have to acquire a device to apply to their drone, retrofitting the drone to meet these new requirements.
So,
So, and
theory,
that is 30 months after the 60 days. So manufacturers have a year and a half to adhere to the new standard. Users have 2.5 years to adhere to these standards. And it's a pretty long time frame. I was a little surprised by that, but I think that they crunched the numbers and realized, or based on the feedback they got, they realized that that they needed that amount of time for a window.
That's really interesting. So thinking what's going to happen at that time. So 18 months from now, all drones will have this. So you can have any commercial drone will have this in it. At the same time, by 18 months, the 5G network should be fully rolled out. That's being built out right now, and its real deployment is going to be in 2021. So you're going to have a remote ID network that's fully 5G capable. It would be interesting to see what capabilities can be done, or what type of company services will roll out after that, and how that's going to impact the market for I guess that's mid 2022 on.
Yeah, I'd say really in the next 3 years, right? So I think we'll see even more regulation come out, is what I'm predicting in 2021, right? Talk about beyond visual line of sight. That's kind of the natural next step. And then I think we'll really start to see more drones executing forms of commerce in our airspace,
Yes.
And what this is needed for, and why this is a good thing, is that it should, so people will see that and start to get nervous. And I think drone companies need to advertise this a little bit more, that these regulations are now in place.
That's right.
And it should bring some level of confidence and, like, I guess, relief of stress to general consumers to know that, okay, the FAA is involved, and there is a safety structure actively being put in place to control all this. Because I don't want a drone falling out of the sky and landing through my windshield.
That's right. Unless it's carrying something worthwhile.
Yeah. But similar legislation or rules just went in place in the EU. So where the EU previously had a disjointed rules in every country, they're now streamlining that to one set of rules for the entire EU. That's also going to be mirrored in the UK. I don't know. I haven't read enough to know if the remote ID function is a part of that. But in terms of the where and categorizing of the drones and when they can be flown, that's definitely all in those regulations. But I would guess, I mean, the remote ID function is really essential to building out that network.
That's right. And then
so I don't see how it couldn't.
And I guess that helps significantly takes away a lot of the pressure of the those drone highways are being built or planned out in different regions, cities, and states around the country. So that way they can designate them and have the remote ID be the backbone of traffic management.
Right.
Yeah.
And so one element that was not included or was pulled out of the initial draft, or what they called Notice of Proposed Rulemaking that was published on December 31st of 2019, was network capability of the signal, right? So like having them be feed information to the internet. So the signal, it's a radio signal that can be captured. I don't know how they to capture the signal. I don't know what that'll look like in terms of being able to identify what the drone is above you.
Uh-huh.
But I know that there was a network capability that was not included in this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you mentioned the sky highways. There is going to be one area where you will be able to fly drones without this functionality included, and that is in what's called FRIAs. And these are FAA recognized identification areas. And these will include community-based organizations and educational institutions. And these institutions and areas can request FRIA status, and they'll be allowed to operate drones without this remote ID functionality. So I see it as, in terms of educational institutions like innovation and trials, and then in terms of community-based organizations, I'm thinking of like Drone Racing League. Maybe they could apply for that and not require that functionality at that time.
That might make sense. So a contained event, the contained places. Yep. That makes perfect sense. Yep. Well, that definitely is big news and also a good way to set up 2021.
Yeah. It's an evolving story too, because I just saw this morning that Wing, the Google drone company, says that it could have unintended consequences and security concerns for American consumers. So need to read into that, try to understand those.
Really?
But it's big news.
Yeah,
Big
so
news
that's
either
good.
way.
Definitely have to loop back to that multiple times throughout the 2021 year.
Absolutely.
See how that goes. Great update.
Yep. All right.
And I think that's it. We just wanted to give this quick news because it's very, very relevant for the coming year. We wanted to make sure we got this out to you.
Yeah. And read up into it more. There's very formal reading that you can do, published by the FAA and DOT. But there's a lot of sources of information out there.
Yes. I think I'll wait till you let me know what it's about before I dig into the FAA documents.
Yeah, it's a little dry. But yeah, big things to come in 2021 and beyond. So looking forward to seeing how this plays out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other news in the last week. I think we're going to start having these smaller segments where we go deeper into the topics over time, so that way it's more digestible. You understand it. We can have a better discussion on each one. And glad to see how the industry is evolving with you out there. Any comments, suggestions for future episodes? We'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, we'll wrap it up there. We'll see you guys next time.
Absolutely. Have a great week.